Okay, third time lucky. So I've already tried streaming from a different software and it didn't work. So I'm trying again. Here we go. At last. Voila. Okay. Third time lucky. So let me turn my sound up. There we go. Okay. So welcome. So if you've managed to see me live, so if this is either you're watching this on replay or you're watching this live, a couple of little tips to help you. So for these live streams, I go live at 8 o'clock. Okay, the easiest thing to do is at 8 or a couple of minutes past 8, 5 past 8, go into this group, so into the Revive group, refresh the page. So if you're on your phone, literally pull the page down and refresh it, and then scroll down a little bit and you'll see the red live button in the top corner. So you'll see that I'm live. And obviously, if you've seen this before, I know that some people find it really, really hard. I see Anne's watching, May's watching, Fabienne. Oh, I don't think I've seen Fabienne in the group before. By the way, apologies if I say your name incorrectly. So if you're excited for this evening, press the like button, press the love heart button. Not only does it let me know that you're looking forward to this evening, but it also starts to let other people in the group know that we're live. They'll be notified that they're coming up live. And also let me know if you're watching live. So throw me a hashtag live, say hello in the comments. If you're new to the group, throw me a hashtag newbie. And obviously if you're watching this on replay, so if you're watching this tomorrow, so if it's Tuesday, you've got the replay, or Wednesday, or whenever it is, throw me a hashtag replay in the comments. Before we get into it, I'd like to do a quick kind of introduction because we're getting lots and lots of new women. So last week, just in the last week, we had 260 women join the group. The week before was over 300 women join the group. So in 2 weeks, we've had nearly 600 women join the group. So if you're new to the group, welcome. I go live every single Monday without fail. 8 p.m. every single Monday. And the idea behind these lives is to give as much value as possible. So to show you what we're doing with our private clients, so with our paying clients that are getting them incredible results. So if you haven't seen already, if you go into the guide section, there's a whole section at the top, which is like live trainings, which is breaking down our methodology, breaking down like why other diets haven't served you. Because by the way, it's them that's failed you, not you that's the failure. And how our methodology is working and helping women drop 30, 40, 50 pounds without having to exercise, without having to, cut out their favorite foods, and why that's really, really important. And then if you keep going down in that guide section of the group, there's a whole section with client success stories. So the women that have worked with us and got those results, and you can see from real women, like what their experiences were. You'll get top tips from them. So if you haven't already, not now, because I want you to watch this tonight. If you haven't already, go to that guide section. So you'll find it at the top of the group. It's a tab. Have a look through there and you can get hold of some trainings and you can see how we work. You can see the kind of results we get. There's an absolute ton of stuff in this group. So I go live every single Monday and I want to give as much value as possible. So if you're excited for this evening, so this evening, I'm going to be dropping some knowledge bombs. I'm going to be dispelling a whole load of myths. There is so much misinformation out there, and it's totally understandable why a lot of people feel like they know what they should be doing, or they think they know what they have to do, but actually are not getting results. Because actually in this day and age, it's harder than ever, because you've got so much information at your fingertips and you're bombarded with ads and you're bombarded with this and bombarded with that, especially when it comes to fat loss and weight loss, especially as females, especially during the menopause. People just see menopausal women and they think, cha-ching, this is a massive industry. And unfortunately, a lot of people will prey on insecurities. They'll prey on a lack of knowledge or a lack of understanding, or they'll prey on all this confusion, and they'll say, oh, it's this and that. And you'll think, oh, yeah, it must be that because this didn't work. So tonight, I'm going to answer all of your questions. I'm going to dispel all of those myths. I'm going to help you understand what really works. And I'm going to help you understand why all of that stuff that you've probably read, that you've seen, is absolute garbage. And what makes me qualified to do so, and what makes me and my team qualified to do so, one, we're level 4 nutritionists. So we've completed what's called the BTM Practical Academy. So it's an actual year-long study where you complete exams at the end. So it's the equivalent of like a foundation degree. We also have someone who's currently trained to be a dietitian. We've got life coaches, we've got therapists, we've got personal trainers. So we're highly qualified, but we also, within our community, we have access to Diane Dansbrink and her team. They present like once a month. So Diane Dansbrink, if you don't know who she is, she's from Menopause Support. She does massive campaigns for menopausal women. So she comes across and is going to be, as of next month, going to be giving a monthly Q&A, her and her team, to answer women's questions about symptoms, treatments. And this is all evidence-based. We also have Tom Bainbridge, who delivers the BTM Practical Academy. He's one of the top nutritionists in the UK. So a team of highly qualified experts that are coming from a science background. We haven't, you know, we come from an evidence-based background, what the research says, what the body of evidence says, and we're more than happy for you to challenge us. And even if tonight, if I say something you don't agree with it, or you think I'm trying to manipulate you or lie, please challenge me. Please ask questions. Please ask why. Please ask how. I'm more than happy to share that research. I'm more than happy to share that evidence, because I genuinely want to help. So anyway, enough with the introduction. I'm going to see who's on live. And by the way, if you're super excited for this evening to find out the truths and find out why those diets have failed you all those years and why some of that stuff is nonsense, start hitting that like button, start hitting that love heart button, and let me know in the comments, say excited for this evening, or just put hashtag excited. So I'm just going to see who's already commented. By the way, I love engagement. It really helps you as well to retain information. So evening, Debbie. Evening, May. Hey, Julie. How's it going? Hi, Susan. Hi, Seema. Hey, Anne. Hey, Joey. Awesome. Hey, Christine. So we've got just over 20 women tonight, which is great. So first of all, I want to start off by, as I put in my post today, I want to talk about why diet clubs, essentially the secret behind them, and how their system, their own system, is actually setting you up for failure. So I'm not going to name names, but essentially all diet clubs pretty much have set up their own system, a points-based system. And if you notice, nowhere in the world, apart from within that community, is that system used. Like, you can't go into a supermarket and find those points on foods unless they come from that company. You can't go shopping and go, oh, this many points for this many points for that. And there is a reason behind this. This system is set up for you to be dependent on it. Because when you come away from it, there is nowhere else in the world where you can find that system outside. So, you know, unless you keep looking at your book or whatever it is, obviously I've never done it, so I don't know, but unless you keep that information and keep following it, you're kind of going to get a bit lost. Like, it's very easy to get off track. So that's kind of reason number one. There's nowhere else in the world uses that system. It's not using science. Okay, none of it is backed by science. For example, Müller Light yogurts, or one of the brands, they used to be 0 points. Now, for whatever reason, there must have been a falling out between the two companies, whatever. Those yogurts are now points. How can they go from being no points to points? Or another example, a banana is okay whole, 0 points. But then if you mash it up, it's points. Like, how does that make sense? It's the same thing, and you're mashing the banana up in your mouth. Like, when you eat a whole banana, it's the same as when it's mashed up, and you're mashing that banana up in your mouth, essentially. Like, the systems don't make sense, first of all. And as you can see, they're designed to have repeat customers, especially when you're paying, what is it, £5 a week, £6 a week? You know, that's kind of money that you could throw away. Like, you'd go to the bingo and you'd spend that, or you'd spend that on lottery tickets. That's kind of almost like throwaway money. It's not really an investment in your health. So you could keep going to that week after week after week, year after year after year. But £6 a week over, I think it's like 5 years, is like a couple of £1,000. Like, over the course of 10 years, that's thousands. That's a lot of money over a long period of time. And statistically, diet clubs only 1.5, so about 16%, only 1.5 in every 10 people, when they attend such clubs, end up losing the weight and keeping it off for the rest of their life. So let me know in the comments below if you've ever gone to a diet club repeatedly. So if you've gone, you've stopped going, and then you've gone back again. And if you've seen the same people in the same position, let me know in the comments. Question number 2, let me know in the comments if you've gone to a diet club and you've lost the weight, and within 6 months to 5 years, that weight has crept back on. So there's loads and loads of reasons, and I'm not going to talk about that tonight because I want to dispel some myths. But the first thing I wanted to break down was that. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is carbohydrates. Yeah. So we got here Seema, me, May. Yes, all the time. There's Caroline put her hands up. The next thing I want to talk about is carbohydrates. So let me know in the comments below if you think that you have to cut carbohydrates out of your diet. And it's okay if you still think that. I'm going to hopefully give you some information that will help you to make the decision for yourself. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Okay. I'm here to guide and give information to help you to be able to make a proper decision. Okay. And that's the same with diet clubs. Like if that's for you, great. But I've just given you some facts because that data came from a study, as in the 1.5 in 10. Are you going to be the lucky 1 in 10 who goes and keeps the weight off for the rest of their life? And hopefully the stuff in the other lives that I've done explain why they failed you and not the other way around. So I'm not telling you what to do. Like if you want to go to a diet club, if you want to, spend £5 every week for 10 years and spend thousands on that and not be, and end up where you end up, that's absolutely fine. But I want to give you the information so you can make a good decision for yourself that's the right one for you. So let's talk about carbs. So if you think that you, or used to think you had to give up carbs, let me know in the comments below. So giving up carbohydrates is probably one of the worst things you can do. Now, there is a caveat to this. With nutrition, with diet, there is no hard science, as in there's no, you must do it this way. This is the only way. Essentially, there's a million ways to do this. And this is why we work one-to-one. This is why we personalize and tailor what we do with each individual, because there is no set method that you must follow. There is no list of foods that you can and can't eat. Like that's all nonsense. So for the vast majority of people, cutting carbohydrates from your diet is one of the worst things you can do. And there's various reasons for this. First things first is carbohydrates, first of all, can help with sleep. Okay, eating carbohydrates in your evening meal can actually help induce sleep. It can help. That's the first thing. And sleep is super important for regulating appetite. So one of the things that we help our clients with is their lifestyle, sleep, stress management, all of those things. Because actually, if you don't manage those, you're going to really struggle to manage your appetite. You're going to really struggle to manage your snacking, and you're going to find it really hard to stick to whatever diet you're doing. And this is the thing you need to be aware of, that actually your eating habits are influenced by everything in your lifestyle. So carbs can actually help with sleep. So that's the first reason. Second thing, what's your favorite foods? Let me know in the comments below what your favorite foods are. And I bet a lot of you, your favorite foods are going to be things like chocolate, cake, pizza. Like for me, my favorite food in the whole world is ice cream. Now, obviously that has sugar in it. Sugar is carbs. Now, are you going to ask yourself, and alcohol's got carbs in it, alcohol's got sugar. Ask yourself the question. So drop in the comments what your favorite foods are, the foods you absolutely love and, you absolutely die for. So mine's ice cream. I love a bit of gin as well. I do love cake. I do love a bit of cake. So ask yourself the question, are you going to give up those foods forever? Yes or no? Are you going to give up the foods that you love for the rest of your life? If you answer that question as a no, then following a diet, which like a keto diet or a low carb diet, where you're not allowed to eat those foods, one is going to create guilt when you do eat them. Now, guilt is a really negative emotion to feel when it comes to dieting because it spirals into more eating. it makes you feel like a failure. It demotivates you. Second thing, if you're told not to eat certain foods and they're your favorite foods, guess what you're going to think about more than ever? Guess what you're going to crave more than ever? Those foods. So at some point you're going to break, there's going to be that guilt, and you've got that cycle. Anyone recognize that cycle, that binge restrict cycle? Oh, I'm going to be good all week. Weekend comes along, bang, ruin it all. Or, oh, I've done so well for like last 2-3 weeks. I'm going to treat myself. Oh, I've ruined it all. Okay. There are no good or bad foods. So what you have to do, from my experience and from what the research says, and this is what the evidence says as well, you have to learn to incorporate those foods. There's no good or bad foods. There's no foods that directly cause fat gain or directly cause fat loss. So one salad won't make you slim, won't make you lose weight. And one donut isn't going to make you fat. Okay, just as an example, I like to use that phrase. All right, so, cutting carbs is probably one of the worst things you can do, especially if you love certain foods. And then the last things I said about on the post is why dieting, and when I say dieting, I mean traditional diets. So the diet clubs, keto, juice diets, all of those kinds of things, actually going to lead to long-term, going to lead to an increase in weight. So there's a lot of research out there about fat cells. And actually when we lose weight and regain it, potentially is an increase in fat cells. Actually, one of the reasons why a lot of people end up heavier than they did before. But what I want you to also think about is when you're following these approaches where you're restrictive, where you're cutting out all your favorite foods that are not things that you are going to do for the rest of your life, you'll go back to what you did before because you don't know what else to do. Like, you don't understand how to change your lifestyle because you've not done it. Like, you've not done that successfully. You've gone from what you were doing to a diet, to an unsustainable diet. So when you revert back to what you did before, guess what weight you're going to end up? You're going to end up that weight you were before, if not heavier. Typically, people find that they're heavier each time. So at this age, most women I speak to are the heaviest they've ever been. In fact, let me know in the comments below if you're now the heaviest you've ever been. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the myths. So you can drop any questions you want in the comments below. And obviously, I'm going to go through some of the questions that have already been asked. So I put a post out last week. I'm going to go through some of those questions. There's a few questions today. I'm going to answer all of those questions and whatever questions are dropped in the comments below. And genuinely, I want to help you. I want to tell you what the truth is. And if you don't believe me, if you want to challenge me, awesome, please do. Most people don't like being challenged or questioned, but that's because they don't know the answers. I had a call with a woman the other week about potentially working together. And she was telling me that the diet club that she was going to, so basically the first week she didn't lose any weight. And they said to her, it's because you did that fad, that juice diet. So, that messed up your metabolism. And, it takes a week for you to get into like what we're doing. And I said to her, did they explain how? Did they explain how that juice diet messed up your metabolism? And why it is that it took a couple of weeks for you to start losing weight? And she was like, no. I was like, could they if you asked them? She was like, probably not. It's important to question things. And I'm more than happy for ladies watching tonight. I want you to question it. I want you to challenge it because it's important. Because there is so much misinformation out there. There's so many people spreading absolute nonsense that's not helping people. And I genuinely want to help. So Roisin, I know we're not going to be talking about diets all night. I'm going to be dispelling some myths. I'm going to be talking about starvation mode. I'm going to be talking about missing breakfast, skipping meals. Going to be talking about windowed eating. All kinds of stuff. And I'll even answer your questions, Roisin. So if there's kind of myths or things that you're not sure about, as I said, free to ask you questions. So if you don't want to stick around, you don't want to get that information, that's absolutely fine. If you kind of feel like you know everything, that's not a problem as well. But I'm here to answer your questions and help you. So I'm just going to go through here. Only eating between certain times. Yeah, that's one of the questions I'm going to answer. Diabetic Todd cut has a breakdown in sugar. Okay, Brenda, that's incorrect, and I'll answer that. I will definitely answer that. You don't need to cut carbs. I have a friend who is a specialist who works with diabetics. Don't cut any carbs, and I'll explain why. And actually the biggest risk factor for diabetes is weight gain, not sugar. And this is a real misconception. And actually, if you go onto the diabetes website, it even states that. It states that the biggest cause for diabetes is weight gain, obesity, being overweight. And sugar can have an impact, but not in the way that many people think. So I'm going to answer that before tonight. So make sure you stick around. Yes, so mate, you asked about juice diet. I couldn't answer it. Can I ask about fat cells? Where some of that we have fixed number of fat cells and they shrink or expand, hence loss and gain. Don't sure or not go through how they increase. So Vicky, I'm going to be honest with you. In terms of the fat cells multiplying, I don't know enough to be able to go into that. So this is what I mean. Challenge me on it. However, there is a guy called Bio Lane. Well, that's not his name. His name is Lane Norton, but you can find him on Instagram. You can find him on Twitter. His handle is Bio Lane. He's a far more intelligent person than I am. And he talks about this, and he's got a YouTube channel where he talks about this. And there is some emerging research that he's kind of spread information about, where essentially there is a possibility that fat cells can increase in number, which is why dieting long-term could be actually a lot, not dangerous, but it can lead to, you know, real struggles with weight later on in life. So I don't know enough information, but I'm more than happy to find that information and share it with you. So send me a private message, Vicky, just to remind me, and I'll send you links to the information. Okay, so Seema's asked about all. So, right, let's get into this. Let's start answering questions. So I'm going to go through the questions first of all. And by the way, apologies if I miss any, but I'm going to try and get through as many as possible. I've got about 15, 20 minutes. So the first one is missing breakfast. So a lot of people were saying, I've heard that missing breakfast helps with weight loss. And then someone else said missing breakfast doesn't help with weight loss. So essentially, it doesn't matter. And some of these questions are going to be really, really direct and really to the point. It doesn't matter. If you don't like breakfast, don't eat it. If you like breakfast, eat it. Now, it's not going to make a difference whether you eat it or not. And I'm going to expand on this because someone else said about breakfast kickstarting your metabolism. I'm going to talk about it separately because I'm going to talk about metabolism separately. But the only real reason that you might or should eat breakfast if you're not currently eating breakfast is if you don't eat breakfast and it leads to you snacking before lunch and overeating throughout the day as a result. So you end up hungry and then you end up reaching for whatever's near and you end up eating highly calorific foods, is a time that you should consider eating breakfast. However, if you don't eat breakfast and you're not hungry and you can pretty much go till lunchtime without eating, don't eat breakfast. Personal bias. I personally, as a teenager, never liked breakfast. Like, I never really ate it. So for me, it's something that I kind of choose. Like, I'm not rigid. So this is another thing. You don't have to be married to a certain way of eating or a certain diet, especially if you know what you're doing. And this is what we try and teach our clients that we work with, is that there isn't like one way of this working. Like, there's a million ways. So you don't have to be stuck to this rigid approach. So it doesn't really matter. You can eat breakfast and lose weight. You can not eat breakfast and lose weight. But there's a few things there that you probably need to understand. So one of the reasons why a lot of people think that you should eat breakfast is it comes from the Kellogg's family. So the Kellogg's family invented cereal. One of the reasons they invented cereal was to stop men masturbating, to keep them busy in the mornings, by the way. So they invented the slogan, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Genuinely, Google it. Kellogg's invented that phrase and they brought, cereals to the market. So it's not the most important meal of the day. If you like it, you want it, great. If it helps you not to eat till lunchtime, great. If you don't like it, you don't want it, don't eat it. It genuinely is as simple as that. Now, to talk about in terms of metabolism. So if you are having to eat food to kickstart your metabolism, get it started, essentially what that's saying is you're dead. So your metabolism is always working. It has to work. Otherwise, you're dead. Your metabolism, your basal metabolic rate, is what is needed to keep your brain functioning, your organs working. So essentially, throughout the day, you've got your total daily energy expenditure. So the amount of energy you need throughout the whole day. About 60% of that, most of it, is your basal metabolic rate. That's the amount of energy you need just to lie in bed in a coma all day. Okay. Your metabolism would still work. And I would say that the vast majority of women would burn anything between 1,200 and 1,500 calories just if they lied in bed all day. The vast majority of your energy needs are lying in bed all day. Then after that, you've got NEAT. So that's your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And what that means is basically your involuntary movements, like blinking, fidgeting, all the stuff that you're not really aware of when you think about doing. Now, some people fidget and move a lot more than others and have a lot more energy than others. Some people have more active jobs than others. So this is anything between kind of 15 and 30, but even up to 30%. The next thing is your eating. To eat food costs you energy. So here's what people talk about. And by the way, this equates to about 10, 15%. It's a real small amount. Now, this is what people are talking about. They're saying, so when you eat food, you actually increase your metabolism, but the amount that it increases by is equivalent to the amount you're eating. So it doesn't matter whether you have one big meal or 5 small meals. The small meals will only spike your metabolism or increase your metabolism slightly. And by the way, this is so insignificant. When it comes to fat loss or weight loss, it's really not important. It's really not relevant, but I just want to kind of explain. Whereas if you had one big meal, it would increase your metabolism massively. But then what you also have to think about is the amount of energy you've just eaten in that food. Like, you've got to get rid of that somehow throughout like your daily activity. And by the way, exercise is the smallest portion of your total daily energy expenditure. And that's explained in one of the guides videos. So hopefully that explains kickstarting your metabolism breakfast. If you've got any more questions off of what I've just said, drop them in the comments below and I'll come back to it. The next one, which I know that so many people are just really unsure about. So, I've heard this from so many women that have been to diet clubs and they get on the scales and their weight hasn't moved or they've gained weight. And the rep will say to them, you're not eating enough. So you're starting to hold on to it. You're starting to hold on to that weight now. It's nonsense. Genuinely. And I'm going to give you some examples to highlight. There is no such thing as starvation mode. There are some things that happen in the body which will reduce your metabolism, not break it, it does. I hate to use the word slow it down. It does slow it down slightly, but let me explain in more detail. So starvation mode doesn't exist. The easiest example to give is I'm a celebrity. These people go into the jungle. They're given rations. They're not eating enough food. What happens to them throughout that jungle experience? They're still eating food, but not enough. What happens? Tell me in the comments below. What happens to people in I'm a Celebrity? Have you ever seen anyone come out bigger or heavier? The answer to that question is no. They all come out smaller. They're not eating enough food for what their body needs. So they lose weight, every single one of them. And to use a horrible but extreme example, starving children, people in concentration camps. Do any of them gain weight when they do get food? Do they all of a sudden balloon up or start holding on to what they eat? No, it doesn't work like that. Your body is constantly burning energy. It constantly needs energy. If you eat it, you're going to use it. So starvation mode doesn't exist. Not as people believe it to, or people may tell you, especially people that are not haven't got that science background, haven't got that knowledge. Now, what can happen if you are on a severely low calorie diet? So if you're on a VLCD, a very low calorie diet, 800 calories or whatever less, by the way, I would not recommend that unless you're under doctor supervision. And there's loads of reasons. I could talk about that another day. If you're on a really low calorie diet, what can happen, especially as you lose weight, is that NEAT portion, that second biggest portion, can reduce. Your basal metabolic rate will get smaller as you lose weight, because your basal metabolic rate is based on your height, your weight, your age. So as you get older, it goes down slightly, really, really small amount. If you've got less muscle mass, which happens on crazy diets because you don't eat enough protein and don't exercise, then it will get smaller again. And as women get older, they lose muscle mass. So it gets slightly smaller. So it does get slightly. And we're not talking about significant amounts. But when you're on massive diets actually what your body does is that neat portion, which can be anything from like 15 to 30% your total energy expenditure, does start to get smaller slightly, only slightly. Remember, we're not talking about massive numbers here. And it will get smaller because your body will start to reduce the amount of energy you expend to save you from essentially dying. Okay, because it knows you're not getting enough food, so it will reduce some of that daily expenditure. But your metabolism isn't broken. It will never be broken. If it does, you're dead. Okay, and there is no such thing as starvation mode. So first of all, if you're enjoying this evening, if this is really helpful, press the like button, press the love heart button, let me know, or just let me comment and say this makes sense. Or if you want to challenge me and ask me questions about anything, please do so in the comments. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is windows of eating. So not eating carbs after 6 p.m. or not eating in the evening or not eating in the morning, or not eating at certain times. Okay, great example I want to use for this. So I used to live in Thailand. I lived in Thailand for about 4 years. And because I've got family back here and stuff like that, we would probably travel back in the summer and maybe at Christmas. So we travel a couple times a year. So when I used to hear about this, I would always think, okay, so if that's the case, if you eat food after a certain time and you gain weight, what happens when you go on an airplane and you're traveling through time zones? So let's say it's 6 p.m. when you leave the UK, you get up in the air and in a couple of hours time, it's like 8 p.m. in the UK, but then you actually, because of where you are in the world, because of you're on a plane, it's actually like midnight. Does that mean when you eat stuff, you start gaining weight? That's not how it works. Okay. Your body is constantly working. You're constantly expending energy. So remember what I said about basal metabolic rate? That's the biggest portion of your metabolism. So you're constantly burning energy. When you eat it, that energy is either being stored, used, whatever. Doesn't matter what time of day you eat. Genuinely. The only reason that having windows to eat, so, you know, not eating till 10 a.m., not eating after 6, is it stops you eating as much. If you've only got 10 a.m. till 6 p.m., that's 8 hours. You've only got 8 hours to eat all your daily food. You're probably not going to eat as much because you're going to feel full. If you want to do that, great. If you don't have to. You don't have to be rigid. Again, there's no, diets are not religion. There's no one way it works. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so this is really interesting one. So eating the same food all the time, your body gets used to it and you stop losing weight. Your body doesn't know what you're eating. It doesn't know whether it's like, okay, so if we talk about carbohydrates, just to be clear, all right? So if I just use carbs as an example, if you eat bread and you eat pasta and you eat chocolate and you eat something else that's got carbs in it, fruit, okay, it doesn't go into your body and your body go, oh, that was a bit of pasta. Oh, that was a bit of bread. As soon as it enters the digestive system, it starts breaking it down. So it will break it down. So for example, a complex carbohydrate will be broken down into glycogen and then broken down into sugars, and then it'll be used for energy or it'll be stored. Okay. Your body doesn't recognize the food. Obviously your eyes do, but your body doesn't, your digestive system doesn't. So it doesn't matter. And, you know, people that are scared of sugar, essentially all foods with carbohydrates in them are broken down to sugar. All foods that are carbohydrates. It's not, sugar isn't like, the reason why sugar is not helpful when you're trying to lose weight is it's flipping tasty. A chocolate bar tastes brilliant. You could easily eat a few chocolate bars without even thinking about it because they taste good. So you can easily overeat. They're highly processed. Food that has sugar in it is highly processed. So it's not very filling. Tastes really good. And generally, actually, foods that are high in sugar are high in fat. So they are really easy to eat. They're really easy to overeat. They taste bloody good. They're not very filling. So it means you just end up eating too much. but there is no other reason. So, sorry, I'm going to have to turn my, I'm going to have to plug my laptop in because I've gone a little bit longer than I expected, which means if I don't plug my laptop in, it's going to die, but it also means I'm going to have to turn my light off. So hopefully, there we go. Oh, it's a little bit moody and romantic. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to scroll through and see what other questions are, but they're all the kind of questions that I've had over the last couple of days. So if you've got any questions based on anything I've said this evening or anything that I haven't talked about, maybe I've missed your question or something like that, drop it in the comments below and I'll make sure I answer it now. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to see if there are any questions that people have asked this evening. Wow, loads of comments, loving it, guys. So if you've really enjoyed so far this evening, if it makes sense, let me know in the comments. This makes sense. Press the like button, the love heart button. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through, just trying to find questions. Cake. Apologies, taking my time. Pie, mashed liquors, whatever. But yeah, so loads of people saying they love the carbs. Yeah, well, if you love it, you're never going to give it up for the rest of your life. So, you know, why bother doing it even for a short period? Okay, so Brenda. So Brenda was talking about she's been told to cut carbs as they break down into sugar. Yes. Okay. However, obviously, you have to manage your sugar levels, of course, like 100%. If you're diabetic, you need to understand how to manage your sugar levels. But that doesn't mean you have to completely cut out carbohydrates. And actually, the biggest risk factor for people that don't have diabetes becoming diabetic is being overweight, gaining fat. Now, there's actually one more kind of myth that I want to go through. And a lot of people I speak to is, well, you know, I'm not losing weight and I'm eating healthily, or I eat healthy food. You can eat healthily and gain weight. And, you know, if we're being really honest and being really kind of real with each other, being overweight increases your risk of diabetes, increases your risk of heart disease. It's the biggest risk factor for actually pretty much all the biggest kind of diseases that as a UK population we're currently facing. So, you know, diabetes, heart disease, strokes, all of those kinds of things are the biggest current diseases that are killing people. Now, I'm not saying that if you're overweight, you definitely will experience those, but you do massively increase your risk. And if you are obese or quite heavily overweight, the evidence would suggest that it's a matter of, you know, when and not if. Now, I don't say that to scare people, and I genuinely don't mean that as in, you know, to be horrible. But I'm here to help people, and I want them to be aware of kind of the risk factors. And actually, the biggest risk factors is being overweight, not whether you eat sugar or not, whether you eat fat or not. Although, again, like there's lots of nuances and lots of context there. So it's not as simple as not eating fat, not eating carbs. Now, if you're diabetic, obviously you need to be aware of your carbohydrate intake, but you don't need to completely remove it. You don't need to cut it out of your diet. You just need to understand how to manage it. So, you know, when your insulin levels are up or down, understanding how to kind of, you know, level them back out again. And by the way, insulin spiking and dropping, that's normal. But obviously with diabetics, it's harder for them to regulate that, which is obviously why it's dangerous and why they have to, you know, take insulin injections and so on and so forth. So it doesn't mean that you can't have carbohydrates. It doesn't mean you can't eat sugar. Can I ask about fat cells? Yeah, I've already answered that. Okay, so Seema said, please comment on oil. I've read it's not healthy and our food curry has oil. What do you mean? Like what type of oil? There are some oils that are better than others. You can have a diet that includes oil. As hopefully I've made really clear, there are no bad or good foods. There are certain foods you should eat less of. There are certain foods you should eat more of. But there's no good or bad foods that you have to completely remove from your diet. So Lisa's talk about asked about intermittent fasting. I don't know whether that's a question, Lisa. Let me know if you have a question about intermittent fasting. They all lose weight. Yep, in the jungle. So in terms of what's best to eat, Wendy, what do you mean by that? Like, so sorry, in order to answer people's questions, I need them to be really, really specific. Because with nutrition, with diet, there is so much context. There isn't like, this is one of the reasons why we work one-to-one. Essentially, it's so there's a lot of nuance to everything. It's not as simple as do this, don't do that. There isn't like a clear, like, you must follow this methodology. And, you know, we call our method the unique, you know, revive method. But actually part of that is that we give food freedom, is that we don't follow one chosen methodology. We work with people to find a method that fits in with their lifestyle so they can follow it for the rest of their life. We show them how to incorporate their favorite foods, how to have a diet that includes everything they like. And you don't there's nothing you have to eat. So Brendan, thank you for the question. That's a big help. Awesome. What's it to guarantee weight loss? There isn't, Kirsten. There is no one food that guarantees weight loss. This is what I'm trying to say. There is no, like, you don't have to drink hot water and lemon in the morning. That does not cause weight loss. That doesn't cause fat loss. You don't have to eat certain foods, because no food, there isn't one pill. There isn't anything on the planet. There isn't an injection. There isn't anything on the planet that if you take it will directly cause fat loss or weight loss. So Philippa, eating before bed, is that bad for us? No. You can eat whenever you like. Genuinely, that as I said, your metabolism is working 24 hours. Like, it's constantly working. It's not like your body gets to midnight and then resets. You can eat whenever you want. This does make sense. Following a few of your tips and lose the extra weight I've gained over the last years, but I don't feel like I've really changed much. Awesome, Roisin. That's awesome. Glad it's really helping you. Okay, is there any other questions? If you've asked a question and I haven't answered it, drop it again in the comments. As I said, if you want me to answer your question, please be really specific, because generic questions really hard for me to understand what you mean. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes because I've actually got to go in a minute. I've got a call with someone. I've got 2 calls actually. Okay, so I can't see any other questions. So let me know in the comments whether you've loved this evening, whether it's helpful. If you do watch this on replay, drop your questions, okay? Or private message me your questions. Now, if you're looking for specific guidance for you, that's what we do with our paying clients. But if you want generic kind of answers to questions about, you know, is this right? Is this wrong? Blah, blah, blah. More than happy to answer that. So feel free to private message me. Do I think the keto diet works? If you've watched the whole of this evening, if not, go back to the beginning. If you can give up carbohydrates for the rest of your life, if you can give up alcohol, pasta, bread, ice cream, chocolate for the rest of your life, awesome, keto might work for you. If you can't, then once you stop doing keto, what are you going to do? Makes sense, clears up all the myths. Awesome, man. Okay, great. So as I said, if you've got any other questions, private message me, drop them below. I will try and get back to them, but obviously, as you know, we got loads of women in this group, and obviously we're super busy with our own clients, and obviously they take priority. So we have our own paying clients that we focus on, and obviously I try and give as much value in this group as well. Anyway, thank you for turning up this evening. Some awesome questions, loving all the interaction, and I will see you again next Monday at 8 p.m.